Five, four, three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Looks like it's still processing offline. Welcome to the Tech Behind FinTech. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Happy holidays and so forth here on the what they call the Black Friday from the shopping side. Always good to be on. So let me stop looking at my I have it running on another phone just to see other comments coming through. Wow. So yeah, I mean, I hope everyone enjoyed their time with their family and on Thanksgiving and so forth. Today, another episode of the Tech Behind FinTech. I'll be running the show solo today. I don't have a guest on today, but there's a few things that I would like to cover. So as always on our show, we go through the news and then we jump into our technology topic of the day. The tech topic of the day was just going to give some basic definitions around high availability, fault tolerance, and disaster recovery. So, like always, let's jump into the news of the week regarding the tech behind fintech. So, the first thing we want to cover right today obviously is the day after Thanksgiving. It's Black Friday. An interesting article that came out that I found interesting was around a campaign called In the Black Friday. So it was started by the National Financial Educators Council, and basically what it's encouraging consumers to do is to avoid debt this holiday season and save for longer term financial goals. As you know, obviously with the pandemic and the loss of employment, things are definitely different with the economy, although the stock market is seeing a record high. So basically, consumers already plan to spend an average of $997.79 in total, which is down from $50 in 2019. So, what other topic on the news side? So, a big thing that we're going to cover today are the outages from the online platform Merrill Lynch, which is a subsidiary of Bank of America, and then talk about the other online outages in the year of 2020. Some things that I found interesting, I just wanted to do some research on it. So in terms of the history of discounted brokerages and outages and just, why possibly is it happening? Why are we seeing it more frequently now this year? So just some overall investigation on it, just to understand it myself, because obviously as a person who has stock accounts and so forth, definitely impacted, and also used to work for one of the online brokerages a few years ago. So definitely is something I find very interesting. So let's so Tuesday, November 24th, Merrill Lynch's wealth management site was down all morning. People were trading. If you go on Twitter and um, hashtag Merrill Edge, you'll see a lot of Twitter comments about it. I posted about it on LinkedIn on Tuesday as well. There is a it's a website. I don't want to get the website wrong, but I could post it. But it's yeah, those outages were totally unreal. Let me post what Renee just said. Renee, Renee Small, who actually is going to be a guest next Friday. I usually don't talk about guests prior, but I know she's going to show up and not bail. So I'm totally comfortable with talking about that. So as we interesting conversation, she is a super recruiter. Yes, those outages were unreal. I would like to see from I like to see what's going to be the repercussion of it. Like I find that very interesting. Like some people, one guy on Twitter was saying, go to the SEC and make a complaint. So he was having a campaign around that. Once again, if you go on Twitter, it's still there. And hashtag Merrill Edge, you'll see a lot of comments in this one website where they talk about downed systems in general from an industry perspective. There were a lot of comments around people who were even thinking of switching accounts. So yeah, it was definitely so and let's not. And this is not an isolated incident in terms of just marriages platform. So I was actually interested in the topic for today, and so I started to think about, let's just see, why is this happening more frequently, especially in 2020? I don't might not have all the full answers. Like I said, this is my interpretation of this, the research I gathered. But so this year, we've seen outages in a lot of major online brokerage firms, starting from Charles Schwab, Fidelity, E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, Robinhood, and Vanguard. It's just outages when people tried to log in, they couldn't get access and so forth. So I was thinking about it, and I said, what's so special in 2020? Why is this potential some of the potential reasons? Obviously, this show, the tech behind fintech, we're really concerned with IT, the IT behind the fintech industry and infrastructure and so forth. So we're gonna go into that tech term, some terms around high availability, fault tolerance, and disaster recovery. But before we get into that, I I personally wanted to know just a brief history of the discounted brokerage business and so forth. So we could take it back all the way to 1975, right? Why was that a pivotal year in this particular business? Obviously, there was no concept of online anything at that time, but there was a special act called the U.S. Securities Act Amendment of 1975 that ended fixed trade commissions for brokerages. So prior to that, there was fixed commission that if you wanted to trade, that everyone charges you. So that Securities Act ended that. When that happened, some firms, some brokerage houses took the opportunity to increase their prices because it's no longer fixed. Charles Schwab, on the other hand, went the opposite direction. They reduced their commissions to $70 a trade at that time, which basically started the discounted brokerage business. Then in the mid 90s, E-Trade was a leading online brokerage business. That was like the spot where if you wanted to start trading online, you would use E-Trade. That happened around like 95-ish. They came out prior in 1982 under another company and then later on, but the business was like booming at that time. So in 1996, the company had about 73,000 accounts and processed more than 8,000 trades per day with a quarterly revenue of 15 million. May seem small in comparison to numbers now, but that was huge back then. So fast forward years later. So mind you, all this time, if you traded with online brokers, there was also commissions and things like that. So last year, 2019, Charles Schwab, they announced that they would cut their stock and ETF, exchange and traded funds commission down to zero. Once they made the announcement last year, other online brokerages followed suit, right? E-Trades, the TD Ameritrades, and so forth. So now we come to 2020. In February, it's an interesting stat. The last 5 trades of February 2020, I mean 5 days in February 2020, there were more than 10 billion shares traded each day, with February's industry share volume averaging 9.3 billion shares per day. That was a 28% jump since February 2019. So, I mean, very interesting, right? I mean, if we look at the stats from 1996 to now, obviously it balloons in terms of volume. But now you have commission-free trading. So I remember when I used to trade my accounts, right? That was one of the hesitations, right? Even if it was like $20, $8, or whatever, you trade, but you're also hesitant because you don't want to just make frivolous trades because it's a commission involved. But once it cuts down to zero, you can see how mixed now with zero, mixed with this year with like the market volatility we saw because of the pandemic and so forth, just a lot of transactions. Anytime you put a lot of transactions on a system, obviously you have infrastructure challenges if they can't sustain, and that's what we saw this year. So it's real interesting to see. I mean, I'm sure there's outages prior, but this year it just seems like a lot, and lasting longer, and not just with one entity, but throughout the industry. So, like I said, I found it interesting. That history lesson I didn't know prior to doing this show. I mean, one of the reasons why I do this show is to, one, help my audience out, but also to help me out. Like I'm in this industry, I like to keep just my fingers on the pulse of what's going on. And sometimes the best way for me to do that is to prepare for a show or prepare for a video. So you know, then I started to try to figure out, if they're not charging commissions, how do these online brokerages actually make money? Right? I found that interesting. So that leads into a couple of ways they make money. For instance, a company like Charles Schwab, they have about 3.7 trillion, that's trillion with a T, client accounts. That's how much money their clients' accounts have. So their latest numbers by the end of August, they have an average of 265 billion of interest that the company makes off interest. That's one aspect. So you have assets under management. You're making interest off the cash reserves that your clients have. Another aspect are loans to clients. So you could loan customers cash to buy stocks or margin, lending out securities to short sellers, hoping to profit from declining prices, and catering to investment rises. So, for example, in 2019, uh, TD Ameritrade's 5.5 billion in net revenue. 23% of that was from loans to clients. Another way that these online brokerages make money is from the payment order flow. So under this practice, a broker bundles its order to specific stocks and routes them to a market maker who pays the broker a fraction of a penny per each share or contract handle. So when we said earlier in February, it was about like 9 point something billion a day of the trading volume. You can see how those fractions of a penny starts to add up. So those are the way that revenue is brought in, although commissions are at zero that we're seeing now. So just I don't know, just when you start merging all of those things together, it was interesting to me just to see now that we have volume increases and now the impact that it has when you're looking from a systems perspective and you're looking around things going down. So that brings us to our tech topic of the day. Like we always have a tech topic of the day. And I wanted to go over the following terms that is in relation to uptime and stuff like that. So three terms that we're going to discuss: high availability, what does that mean? Fault tolerance, and disaster recovery. So from a high availability standpoint, it's usually referred to as 5 nines availability because it's guaranteeing uptime 99.999% of the time. What does that mean? And just to put it in perspective, like what does that mean? Like that's just a random number that we can throw out. It essentially means that if you look at an entire year, your system will only be down 5 minutes and 15 seconds for that year. So that's guaranteeing that amount of uptime. Then when you look into the term fault tolerance, that goes into your systems being up 100% of the time, right? Just it never goes down. It's always up. That's fault tolerance. And now when we talk about disaster recovery, it's more so looking at the end-to-end plan to recover from your critical business, and not only recover from a systems perspective, but you gotta look at various aspects to a disaster recovery and a business continuity plan. So it may leverage high availability, but those are all three different terms. With these outages, with the outage this week and outages this year, I just found those terms interesting. So one will ask, so why don't we just use fault tolerance and guarantee 100% uptime? Because there's costs associated with that. To have multiple systems running in various availability zones and regions throughout to guarantee that. So, I just like I said, I find it interesting from a technology problem perspective that these brokerages are going down. And that's not to mention, I mean, we're not getting deep into it because I need to do some more research on it, but there's also third-party dependencies as well with these systems. So although you have your brokerage account, they rely on other systems. So there's latency between that and slowness. So that could be a whole nother aspect. But that's really what I wanted to cover today. Hop on. The goal is to just remain consistent with the show. And every week, we're going to bring you different topics that happen from the week, various guests, and so forth. I know it's a day after a holiday. It usually my engagement's a little bit more, but I thank Renee for hopping on for sure. And yeah, that's really it. I hope everyone has an amazing holiday weekend. And that's pretty much the show for today. You guys take care. Cheers. Going to soon exit stage left.